The meeting starts at 9 a.m. sharp. That is what the invitation says. Harrison Whitfield III. That is actually what it says on the plaque, outside his corner office on the 41st floor of Whitfield Capital Partners. The Roman numerals doing exactly the work he needs them to do, announcing lineage, announcing permanence, announcing that some people are simply born into rooms like this one. Harrison Whitfield III sends the calendar invite at 8:47 p.m. the night before, 13 minutes. That is all the notice Deja Simmons gets before the meeting that is supposed to change everything. She sees it when she is already in bed. She has been up since 4:30 that morning. She will be up again at 4:30 the next morning, because that is what her life looks like right now. The commute from East Side to downtown takes an hour and 14 minutes on the 38 bus, and the bus does not care about calendar invites sent at 8:47 p.m. She reads the subject line 3 times, strategic realignment discussion. She knows what that means. She is known for 6 weeks since the Meridian account fell through and Harrison started having strategic realignment discussions with every black and brown face on the floor, one by one, like he is working through a list. Maybe he is working through a list. She sets her phone face down on the nightstand, picks it up again, sets it down. She does not sleep. At 9:02 a.m. the next morning, Deja walks into the conference room on the 41st floor, and Harrison Whitfield III is already seated at the head of the table. There is no one else in the room. This is the first thing she registers and files. No HR, no witness. Just Harrison in his Brunello Cucinelli suit. She has Googled the brand exactly once, $4,200, because she needed to understand something about the man she works for. And a single manila folder on the table in front of him, and the particular way he does not stand up when she enters. She is 31 years old. She has been with Whitfield Capital Partners for 4 years. She manages a $47 million portfolio. She has never once been late. She has never once missed a target. She brought in the Carver Group account 18 months ago, a $12 million contract that Harrison announced at the all-hands meeting without mentioning her name. She sat in the 3rd row and listened to him take credit, and she kept her face very still. She sits down across from him. He does not offer his hand. Deja, he says, and the way he says her name is a verdict. 2 syllables pronounced like a minor inconvenience, like he is tasting something he did not order. I'll be direct. We're restructuring the portfolio management division. Your position is being eliminated. She says nothing. You've been a solid... He pauses here, searching for the word, landing on it with the confidence of a man who has never needed to search for anything for very long. Contributor. But the direction we're taking requires a different kind of leadership profile. Still, she says nothing. She learned this from her mother. Her mother cleaned offices in buildings like this one for 19 years, from the time Deja was 4 until Deja was 23. And her mother used to say that silence is the only language powerful men respect because it is the only language they cannot interrupt. So Deja is silent. She watches Harrison Whitfield III adjust his cufflink. She watches him interpret her silence as submission and settle more deeply into his chair. The severance package is fair, he says. 12 weeks. We'll provide a reference for roles at the appropriate level. And there it is, the appropriate level. She asks him what he means. He smiles. It is a particular kind of smile she has seen her whole life, in grocery stores and school offices and job interviews and apartment viewings. The smile that is not really a smile, but is instead a door being politely but firmly closed. I mean the role that fits your skill set. Portfolio management at this scale, the C-suite trajectory we're pursuing, it requires a specific background, certain networks, certain... And here he waves his hand, a gesture encompassing his office and his floor and his building, and probably, Deja thinks, the entire 30-block radius of downtown that has always understood itself to belong to men like him. A certain fit, she asks him directly. She has promised herself she will ask him directly. Are you saying you don't think I can run a company? Harrison Whitfield III does not hesitate. That is the thing she will remember for years when she is telling this story to board members and journalists, and eventually to a room full of 22-year-olds who look exactly like she did at 22. He does not hesitate even slightly. He says, Deja, I'm going to be honest with you because I think you deserve honesty. You're talented, you work hard, but running a company, a real company at real scale, that's not where your trajectory leads. That's not a criticism. It's just reality. The room is silent for a long moment. She picks up the manila folder, reads the severance agreement, places it back on the table. "I'll need to think about it," she says. She stands. She does not offer her hand either. This is 9:11 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, and Deja Simmons has been awake for 4.5 hours, and she will be awake for 11 more, and she is already thinking. She is already doing math. She has been doing this particular math for 3 years, quietly, in the margins of her real life, and now Harrison Whitfield III has just handed her the most important thing he has ever given her, even though he does not know it yet. He has handed her time. 6 months earlier, the office is different. The air is different. This is the part of the story that requires going backward before it can go forward. And going backward means going to a Tuesday in September when everything in Deja Simmons' life is held together with something closer to faith than strategy. And she is sitting in a Panera Bread on the corner of Harwell and 5th because the Panera has free Wi-Fi and enough ambient noise that she can think without the silence of her apartment pressing in on her. And she is on her 4th call of the day with Marcus Webb, who is the closest thing she has to a co-conspirator. Marcus is 34, and he grew up 5 blocks from where Deja grew up, and he went to state on a partial scholarship. And he has spent the last 6 years working in commercial real estate and accumulating, methodically and without fanfare, a very specific kind of knowledge about distressed assets and undervalued companies and the gap between what a thing is worth and what a thing is selling for. He calls this gap the opportunity. He has been calling it the opportunity for 2 years, and Deja has been listening for 2 years, and 6 months ago, she started believing him. "Tell me the Whitfield numbers again," Marcus says. She has the numbers memorized. She has had the numbers memorized for 4 months. Whitfield Capital Partners, founded 1987 by Harrison Whitfield Jr., inherited 2019 by Harrison Whitfield III, annual revenue trending downward for 3 consecutive years, 2021 at $31 million, 2022 at $27 million, 2023 projected at $23 million based on the Meridian loss, and 2 other accounts she knows are quietly in play. Debt-to-equity ratio rising. 2 key senior partners departed in the past 18 months. The Carver Group, the account she brought in, quietly signaling to her through channels. Harrison does not know she has that their loyalty is to her, not to the letterhead. "And the Holloway Group?" Marcus asks. The Holloway Group is the piece. Lawrence Holloway is 67 years old, and he built a mid-market private equity firm over 30 years, and he is tired, and his kids do not want the business, and he has been quietly, through intermediaries, exploring options for 18 months. His firm manages $340 million in assets. He has been approached by 4 buyers. None of them are right, and Holloway is particular about right. Deja knows this because Deja spent 6 months becoming someone Holloway would talk to. Not through connections she does not have, through expertise. Through a 47-page analysis of the Holloway Group's portfolio that she wrote at the Panera on Harwell and 5th and Cent, through a mutual contact from her Howard University network to Holloway's office with a cover note that said only, "I see what you built, and I see what it's worth, and I see why the offers you've received don't honor either of those things. My name is Deja Simmons, and I would like to talk." Holloway called her back in 11 days. The Holloway conversation is moving, she tells Marcus. He wants to meet in person next month. "Before or after you think Whitfield moves on you?" She considers this. She has known for approximately 6 weeks that Harrison is building a case to eliminate her role. She has been watching the signs accumulate. The way he stopped seeing her on certain threads, the way the new managing director hired in July, Yale, Connecticut, golf handicap mentioned in his introduction email, gets invited to client dinners that Deja used to attend. The strategic realignment language that started appearing in all hands memos. She is not surprised. She has not been surprised in a long time. "Before," she says, "definitely before." This is the conversation that will matter. This is the Tuesday in September that seeds the Tuesday in March. And between these 2 Tuesdays, Deja Simmons does not sleep enough and does not rest enough and spends $11,000 of her own savings on legal consultations and financial modeling, and one very important dinner with Lawrence Holloway at a restaurant in the financial district where Holloway orders the salmon and listens to her talk for 45 minutes and then says, very quietly, the thing she has been waiting to hear. "You're the first person in 18 months who talked to me about what I built instead of what you do with it after I'm gone." She remembers to breathe. That's because what you built is worth understanding, she says. The dinner lasts 3 hours. She takes the 38 bus home. It is 11:22 p.m., and she has to be up at 4:30. And she sits in the back of the bus and looks out the window at the city moving past in streaks of orange and white light, and she lets herself feel it for exactly the length of the ride. The possibility of it. The enormous, terrifying possibility. Then the bus reaches her stop, and she gets off and walks the 4 blocks home and makes herself a cup of tea and sits at her kitchen table and opens her laptop and gets back to work. The month between Holloway's agreement in principle and Harrison's Manila folder is not a month Deja discusses in interviews later. It is too interior for that. It is the kind of month that lives in the body rather than in narrative, in the 4 a.m. mornings and the lunches she does not eat, and the way she starts keeping a legal pad in her desk drawer at Whitfield with notes she writes in handwriting, small enough that no one passing her desk would recognize as anything significant. She manages her $47 million portfolio with exactly the same precision she has always managed it. She does not give Harrison Whitfield III a single professional grievance to point to. She is, during this month, the best version of her working self, and this is not strategic, or it is not only strategic. It is also the way her mother raised her. You do the work because the work is worth doing. You do it right because you are the one who has to live with how you did it. Marcus connects her with an attorney named Patricia Osei, who specializes in acquisition structuring and who went to Spelman and who has the kind of precise, unhurried intelligence that makes Deja feel, every time they speak, like she is thinking more clearly than she was before the call. Patricia reviews the term sheet with Holloway's people line by line. She identifies 3 provisions that need adjustment. She negotiates them. She does not raise her voice once. The capital question is the hardest question, and it is the question that wakes Deja at 3 a.m. in the second week of February. The question she carries on the 38 bus and through the lobby of 41 Meridian Plaza and up the elevator into her desk, where she manages $47 million that belongs to other people. She has $80,000 in savings. She has the Carver Group, which has confirmed in writing, carefully, without triggering any conflict of interest clause, that they will follow her if she establishes a new vehicle. She has a Howard University network of 24 former classmates at various points in finance and law and technology who have been, over the past 3 months, in quiet conversation about what they might build together. But acquisition capital is different from operating capital and Holloway's firm, even at a price that honors neither of them through the lens of what it could be worth, requires real money. This is where Marcus has spent 6 months building something Deja did not initially believe was possible. A consortium. 12 investors, 7 of them black, 2 of them women, who built wealth in healthcare and technology and watched, like Holloway, something they built get undervalued. Not venture capital. Not institutional money with the strings that come with institutional money. Patient capital, Marcus calls it, people who understand what they're actually investing in. The consortium closes on February 28th, 11 days before Harrison Whitfield III sends the calendar invite. Deja does not believe in coincidence as a category. She believes in timing. She believes that preparation positions you for the moment, and the moment arrives when it arrives, and your job is to be ready. She is ready. She has been ready for 8 months, and she just needed Harrison to do what Harrison was going to do regardless. And Harrison has done it on a Tuesday in March with a manila folder and the specific sentence that she will spend the rest of her professional life treating as the most expensive gift anyone ever gave her for free. You'll never run a company. She thinks about this sentence on the 38 bus going home from the meeting. She rolls it around. She examines it from different angles. She thinks about all the places she has heard some version of it in her 31 years. In the middle school guidance counselor's office, when she said she wanted to study finance, and the counselor said, "Have you considered something more practical?" In the college interview at the university she did not get into. In the early performance reviews at Whitfield that said excellent technical skills and then went quiet on leadership potential. In the 11 months she spent being paid $34,000 less than the man in the office next to hers, whose portfolio she was quietly managing while he was on the golf course. She has been hearing this sentence her whole life in different words, and the accumulation of it should probably make her smaller, but instead, on the 38 bus going east on a Tuesday afternoon, it makes her absolutely certain. She calls Marcus from the bus. "He did it," she says. "Today?" "Today." A pause. You okay? She looks out the window at the city. I'm better than okay, she says. I'm free. The next 47 days are not cinematic. She wants to be honest about this because the story, when it gets told, will get smoothed into something more elegant than it actually is. And she owes it to anyone who needs to hear it, to tell it rough and accurate. The 47 days between the meeting in Harrison's conference room and the close of the Holloway Group acquisition are 47 days of paperwork and legal review and 2 financing complications that require Patricia to spend a 17-hour Thursday on the phone with 4 different parties, and one morning when Deja sits on the edge of her bathtub at 5 a.m. and genuinely does not know if the deal is going to hold, and she cries for approximately 4 minutes, and then she washes her face and calls Patricia, and they solve the problem together by 9 a.m. Marcus loses 8 pounds. He will mention this later at the celebration dinner, and everyone will laugh, and then nobody will laugh because it is not really funny. Building something costs the body. She knows this. Her mother knew this. 19 years of cleaning offices in buildings like 41 Meridian Plaza, and the toll it takes is not just financial. It lives in the joints and the sleep, and the particular exhaustion that has no name, but that Deja has been watching her mother carry since before she had words for what she was watching. She does not tell Harrison what she is doing. She is not required to, and she is not inclined to. She signs the severance agreement on March 19th, her last day, and she carries a single box of her things to the elevator, and she presses the lobby button, and she watches the 41st floor disappear above her. The close happens on April 28th. She is sitting in Patricia's conference room with Marcus and the 12 members of the consortium and 2 representatives from Holloway's side and Lawrence Holloway himself, who is wearing a blue cardigan and looks, for the first time in the months she has known him, genuinely relaxed. They sign 127 pages of documents. Patricia has flagged every line. Deja reads every word. When it is done, and Lawrence Holloway shakes her hand across the table, he holds on for a moment longer than a handshake requires, and she understands this to be its own kind of sentence, its own kind of recognition. The firm is renamed. This is her decision, and she makes it carefully. Not her name, not a statement. Meridian South Capital, for the 38 bus route she rode for 4 years, for the south side of the city where she grew up, for something directional and grounded, and pointing towards something rather than away from something. The first press release goes out the next morning. She has specifically, at Marcus's suggestion and Patricia's approval, included the founding story in the release, not as grievance, as context. The call from Harrison Whitfield III comes at 2:17 p.m. on the day the press release goes out. She lets it go to voicemail. She is in a meeting. She is always in a meeting now, and she is exhausted and more alive than she has ever been in her professional life, and the meeting she is in is with the Carver Group, who have officially migrated their account, and with 2 new prospects who heard about Meridian South through Marcus's network, and she cannot stop to take a call from a man who made a specific error in judgment 7 weeks ago. She listens to the voicemail at 6 p.m., sitting in her car outside the parking garage. Harrison's voice is different. She notices this immediately. The particular register of authority is gone, and what is left sounds genuinely uncertain, which is a sound she has never heard from him before. He says he has seen the announcement. He says he would love to reconnect. He says he thinks there might be opportunities for, and here he uses a word that she suspects he has never directed at her before, collaboration. She calls Marcus. He left a voicemail. What did he say? She plays it on speaker. Marcus is quiet for a moment. You going to call him back? She thinks about this. She thinks about the manila folder and the Brunello Cucinelli suit and the particular way he said the appropriate level. She thinks about her mother getting off a bus 20 years ago carrying the same bone-deep tiredness that Deja carries right now, except her mother did not get to carry it toward this. Her mother carried it toward tomorrow's shift. Not today, she says. She does not call him back the next day either, or the day after that. This is not vindictiveness. She examines herself for vindictiveness regularly because she does not want to build something from that energy. What she feels instead, when she thinks about Harrison, is something closer to indifference, and she understands that this is the real victory, not the acquisition, not the press release, not the voicemail. but the fact that Harrison Whitfield III has become peripheral. He is at the edge of something that no longer centers him, and that decentering, she thinks, is the actual shape of what she has built. She calls him back on a Thursday. She is brief. She thanks him for reaching out. She says Meridian South is well capitalized and fully staffed at present, and should that change, she will be in touch. She is professional and warm and completely unavailable, and she ends the call without hostility, which is harder than hostility would have been, and also more true to who she is. What she does not tell him, because it is not his to have, is what she did with the 12 weeks of severance. She put $9,000 of it toward the closing costs. She put the rest into a fund she has started, quietly and not yet publicly, for young analysts from the south side of the city who need mentorship and access, and someone to take a meeting with them and treat them like they are already what they are becoming. She is calling it the bridge. She knows that is a little obvious, but she is okay with obvious when obvious is true. The first cohort is 6 people, ages 22 to 26, 3 women, 3 men, from 7 different zip codes that she knows by heart because she has memorized the geography of underinvestment in this city the way Harrison Whitfield III memorized the geography of its golf courses. She meets with each of them individually for an hour before the first group session, and she asks them the same question. She asks everyone she is serious about, what do you see that other people aren't seeing yet? The answers are extraordinary. They always are. That is the thing about people who have been told they are looking in the wrong direction. They develop a particular precision of vision. They learn to see exactly and specifically because they cannot afford approximation. They have done the math so many times, at kitchen tables and on bus rides and in Panera Breads with free Wi-Fi, that the math is in their bodies. She thinks about this often now, when she is in rooms she was told she would never be in. She thinks about all the math that lives in bodies that have never been given a corner office. She thinks about what would have been possible sooner for more people if the Harrison Whitfield IIIs of the world had made room instead of arguments. She is not naive. She knows what she is operating inside of. Meridian South Capital will spend years proving things that comparable firms with comparable performance are never asked to prove. She will walk into rooms and watch eyes move to the door behind her, looking for the person who is actually running this. She will be underestimated in ways that are strategic and in ways that are just reflexive, and she will be required to manage her response to both with a precision that will exhaust her sometimes and that she will have to explain to no one, because the people who need the explanation do not want it, and the people who do not need it already understand. But here is what she also knows. She is 31 years old, and she manages $340 million in assets, and she built a bridge, and she rode the 38 bus for 4 years, and she never once let anyone else's assessment of her trajectory become her own assessment of her trajectory. And that, the refusal to let someone else's smallness determine your horizon, that is something nobody gave her. She built that herself, in the space between what she was told and what she knew. On a Tuesday morning in early June, almost exactly 3 months after the meeting with Harrison, Deja Simmons is on the 38 bus going west. She does not take it as often now. She has a car and a parking spot, in mornings when driving is faster, but today she took the bus on purpose. She wanted to sit in the back and watch the city come toward her and think about what it means to be going the other direction, towards something instead of away from it, and to know the difference between the two, not because someone told her, but because she has lived both. The bus passes 41 Meridian Plaza. She does not look up. Think about the thing you have been told you cannot do by someone who did not bother to know you. Think about the math you have been doing quietly, in margins, on buses, at kitchen tables, while people with titles made pronouncements about where your trajectory leads. Think about your mother or your father or the person who raised you in whatever form that took and what they carried so that you could sit where you are sitting right now and read this. Think about what it means that the room you need to be in has always existed. It has always existed. And the only question is whether someone unlocks the door or whether you figure out, quietly and precisely, and without asking permission, how to build your own. Harrison Whitfield III has his company. It is worth less than it was a year ago. He is working on a turnaround. He has hired a consultant. Deja does not wish him failure specifically. She is not organized around his failure. She is organized around something else entirely, something that did not have room to grow inside the story he told about her, and she is tending it carefully, with the particular care of someone who knows what it costs to plant it. The 38 bus reaches her stop. She gets off. She does not look back. She has a meeting to get to.